Now let's talk about some of the main techniques that are involved for production of food ingredients using microorganisms. So the microorganisms have a very important role in today's world for production of very useful food ingredients and many of the variety of compounds that are used for production of food, and they are added as additive. They are very highly valuable, and they are highly desired because they are considered as natural sources as well, which is at the end of bottom line of consumption. For example, the consumers, they would prefer to use something which is natural rather than synthetic compound. So they are taken as a natural component of food as well. So especially if we talk about food ingredients, there are a large number of different types of food ingredients which are produced by microorganisms, especially most of the enzymes that have got very good applications in the processing of many food products. Microbial methods, they are very much promising because once we have an optimized conditions, they are very economical and they are superior in terms of quality as well. So that makes it very important to have viable technologies of using microorganisms for producing valuable food products. Another benefit is that they would be using less valued raw material that is fed to these microorganisms to produce high value end products. So the microorganisms, we have to choose and select different kind of microorganisms that have got potential to actually synthesize these compounds under given proper growth conditions, controlled growth conditions. So we have to actually take care of these microorganisms, that they are given the proper nutrients as well as conditions in which they can produce those valuable compounds that we want them to produce for us. They are very good economic source of many enzymes, as I earlier said, and many of the flavors are being produced by microbes as well. Why I said they are economical, as I earlier said, because we can start with cheap raw materials and they can be converted into very useful high value end products by use of these microorganisms. If we talk about different approaches or different techniques that are used for production of these ingredients by microorganisms, so there are basically two different approaches. One is microbiological methods for production of different flavors or enzymes or other useful ingredients used for food processing, and the second method is enzymatic methods for production of these ingredients. So talking about the first one, the microbiological methods, they are again, they use two different approaches for making these ingredients. One is biosynthesis and the second one is called as biotransformation. Now we'll discuss what these two methods actually are. The first method, which is called biosynthesis, which is basically the production of these chemical compounds by these multiplying cells or microorganisms that are actually fermenting the substrate, and they would be producing these useful product as their secondary metabolites. So they are synthesizing this useful compound for us during the process of fermentation. This process is called as biosynthesis. So the raw material is given and the end product is synthesized by these microorganisms. The second method, as we said, biotransformation, it is the use of microbial cells to specific modification of chemical structures. So we may be given, maybe we are giving certain structures or chemical compounds to these microorganisms, and during their growth process, they transform these structures into different structures which are desirable for end users or as ingredients in food industry. As I earlier said, this fermentation process, it has to it has to utilize all the cheap and simple sources such as sugars and amino acids. So we would have to look at the most economical method or the most economical raw material that can be used for production of these compounds. And these microorganisms would have complex metabolisms. Through this complex metabolism, they would be catalyzing specific conversion of precursor and intermediate compounds that eventually leads to the biotransformation of for other compounds. And it is also possible that they make they synthesize this compound or biotransform this compound. But in all scenarios, the metabolic process is very complex. And during this metabolic process, we have to provide them with all the nutrients required for every step of this metabolism in these microorganisms. So if we talk about this fermentation process, two elements which are very much needed, they are carbon and nitrogen sources. They, as a specific substrate, they are required for the growth of the microorganisms. And these enzymatic catalysis, they proceed a simple specific transformation of substrate molecule into desirable molecules at the end. So if we talk about some of the example, as I said that enzyme is a very large category of ingredients which are produced by microorganisms and which are very much utilized by food industry. And food industry, many of the end products are very much dependent upon these fine quality enzymes produced by microorganisms. Another useful ingredient is flavor in food industry. So we can produce through fermentation different flavors such as yogurt flavors, alcohol flavors, wine, beers, and pickles. They are all desired because of a specific flavor that is produced, and those flavors are generally produced by these microorganisms, and these products are actually chosen, or the quality of that is basically determined by good quality flavor that is naturally produced by these microorganisms. And if there is any defect in the flavor, the product is going to be straight away rejected by a consumer. So that shows the importance of having these good flavors and the control condition in which we can produce these good flavors by these utilizing these microorganisms. Similarly, acetic and alcoholic flavors, they are also produced by fermentation. So this is a little about how we use microorganism for our benefit to produce ingredients for utilization in food industry.